lovely people. I'm Sinead, and welcome. Today I want to show you some of the things I got done. Like I painted the refrigerator, got a nice lovely pink shade. It's not quite cured, so I haven't put anything in there yet. But I did get that done. And I am trying to put together a sink for the bathroom. And I wanted to show you one of the accessories. I wasn't like, if you're familiar with when I did the photo frames, there was a shelf, two little shelves that were also in that kit of frames, and I got those done and put on the wall. So I am going to turn the camera around here and take you into the dollhouse and show you those items. Okay, real quick, here is the little green shelves were part of that, and I stuck the little ducks on them because I thought it looked cute because it matched the colors in here. And we've got these guys all hanging out. Now let's see if I can move across here. Peek into the bathroom. I got another towel back there, and on the towel rack I found another washcloth. And you can see the refrigerator over there is all cute and pink. And Joey brought home some more miniature bowls, all glazed, a variety actually. And so we've got now a couple of pieces of pottery back there in the kitchen. And what I was going to work on today was the sink for in here in the bathroom. So let's go over and start that. So the first thing I did to decide how I was going to do the sink in the bathroom was to decide what I was going to use for a sink. Now, I have this bowl that it's one of the early bowls that Joey made. It's got a pretty deep foot on the bottom, but that doesn't matter. The bowl itself will work really well for a sink, or at least appearing like a sink. And if I wanted to, I could paint a little drain in the bottom, which I might do. Right now I'm not worried about it because most photos aren't even going to show the bottom of the sink. But you never know. I might change my mind about that. But that got me to thinking, what other things, like not everybody's got a Joey to make them tiny little bowls. So this is a Glitter Girl bowl. And then I thought, depending on what scale you're working on, we're having trouble with focus today, a bottle cap might work for a sink, especially if you can hold on to it. And then I found this tiny little bowl in just some of the plastic Barbie scale stuff. So I don't know, there's probably little bowls in lots of the different Barbie sets. And apparently my camera thinks that this bowl is now the end all and be all of things to focus on. I think it's so funny when the camera decides that it's smarter than you and starts focusing on various different things. So what I did was I took my circle drafting template, there we go, and to find what size. Now you can trace around the bowl and then do a circle inside that tracing, because you don't want it to be the same size as the circumference of the edge of your bowl, or it'll just fall through. Like this one right here, you can see it just falls through. That would not be a good size. And that's what you'd get. That's what you get when you trace around the outside of your bowl. But the next size smaller, the bowl sits in there and works just fine. Now, I'm going to correct myself here. You could do this size, the one that just fits, and then use your glue to hold it in place. Like I'm going to use a 2-part epoxy to hold this in place when I've decided that I'm happy with where it's at. But because the clay is a little bit of a heavier object than, say, plastic, I wanted to be sure that the surface of the counter would hold it and support it. Plus I wanted to keep that purple glaze up there visible on the top edge, you know, more so. And this would have put it down right even with, and you could also, just I'm having thoughts here. You could also glue it to the underside like that. Like make your hole just slightly smaller and then glue the bowl to the underside. Just, it really depends on what you're using. You could also use packaging to come up with like the doll packaging, if it has or any bubble type plastic packaging. You could possibly cut away just that bowl shape off of that and use that. You could paint it or whatever to get your bowl. So I decided to go with a wood countertop because I had enough to use, and I put my hole a little close to this front edge. I should have backed off at least the thickness of my counter, I mean my cabinet, plus just a tiny bit of overhang. So that's where you have the cardboard in here is just into the hole, and it works with the way that I'm doing the counter. I mean, it's not a problem, but it would have been a better bet if I'd moved it further away from the edge and taken into consideration the thickness of my cabinet material. I also thought that using this paper circle cutter, cutting paper circles, to establish my cut line before I went at it with the craft blade would be easier to get a circle, but I don't know. You can probably see that is not even, and it didn't actually improve the situation, and you kind of wear out your blade doing that. So I don't know, just using a compass to draw your circle. That's the other thing, is that you could figure out the diameter of your bowl and then use a compass to draw a circle. There's lots of different ways to get that circle in there. Maybe you have another way to trace it. Trace inside works just fine for you. But like I said, I actually, this didn't work out to be that great. But then I got it cut out, and we got our edges all sanded, because when I cut this edge, it was really uneven. And that was just, it's like I cut this first edge, and it went great. And then I go to cut this edge, and I don't know, everything went wrong. It just did not want to stay on a straight line. So I ended up having to just get it cut out and then use sandpaper, and I used 600 grit sandpaper to true it. Then I cut a strip of cardboard to the height that I wanted my counter to sit, and cut a fold line so that I could support the counter here. And this distance here is shorter than the depth, so that it has that tiny bit of overhang. And this distance here is shorter than the front edge, so that we get overhang the other direction. So it's, I don't know if you can see that, we're overhanging just a tiny amount, probably, I don't know, looks like a 4mm button. And I didn't cut it out with all 4 sides. I don't know, maybe I thought I was going to be able to get away with only 3. But I went ahead and cut a back that fits in here to create a little more stability. I know that if you've been watching, you know I like to put cabinet doors. I decided against it this time. I don't know, I might be something I go back and add, but right now I have decided against having a cabinet door or anything. Like I said, may change my mind, but for right now, that's what we're going to do. So what I need to do at this point is to get some tape and tape this together and decide which side goes out. Yeah, because I was actually debating here. And I was trying to decide whether I wanted to use glue to attach that to the edge, or whether I wanted to try wow, epoxy. Glue versus epoxy. They are different. It's just had a moment there where I could not remember what I was thinking. Yeah, and I don't think it needs epoxy. I don't at all. I think glue should work. I mean, the materials we're using, I've been putting them together with glue all along, so I don't know. I was just having doubt, okay? So you get to come along on that ride. All right, so I cut these so that the main structure is outside the back. Let me just tape it in there, and then I think I'm going to put a little bit of tape on the inside. I'm not going to worry about going all the way from edge to edge. Just, okay, same problem I had the last time I tried to do this. Getting the tape in there. It likes me better than it likes where I want it to go. Okay. There we go. That will just help to stabilize that, I hope. Let's come around and do the other side. And this time I'm going to cut it off the roll instead of cutting it after the fact. And then you could be using pieces of paper again to glue this together instead of taping it. I will say that the glue and the paper, they work much better for much longer. I think that some of the tape stuff that I have done past projects is popping apart, and I've been having to go back and repair that. So don't ask me why I'm using tape, except that it was here. And sometimes we work with what's there, not because it's the best, but because we stop functioning. And I don't know, maybe you don't have that problem. Okay, so there's basically the structure. If you want your countertop a different color than your cabinet, I would paint them now at this point instead of waiting. But I'm simply going to glue this on here. But I think that it would be smart to, don't ask me why I reached for the plastic bowl, to glue the bowl in place before putting it on the cabinet. And I just realized I have this the opposite direction I want to go. I think that if I get, although, just, okay, here's the complication. If I glue the cabinet on the counter, it's hard for me to reach to get the epoxy in there. I could use a tool though. If I glue it in here, the two-part epoxy might interfere with the cabinet. Yeah. Realization, yes. We're working it out with a pencil here. Yeah, if I put the two-part epoxy in here, I am likely to interfere on these two sides with the with where the cabinet goes, with the placement, and I don't want that nightmare. So we're going to glue this on first. Try to get it on here correctly. So I got to go get some glue. That's one of those occasions where I just forgot to hit record again, and I was just gluing and just thinking, oh, right. So this is part of the reason why I'm having that doubt thing with the glue, is that you have so much open on corrugated that I was just feeling like maybe I was gonna not have enough attachment point, but it's probably just fine. Okay, I'm gonna flip it over. I want it flush on the back edge, and I want it with a little bit of overhang, and I would love it if it was even. Okay, that actually, I don't know if you can see that. I'll kind of turn it around here. I think we got pretty centered. We may be hanging over a little bit more on one side than the other, but. And then I'm going to put those blocks, those 1, 2, 3 blocks. And we'll let that set up. I got a base coat of white on the cabinet, which is wet, and I keep wanting to pick it up. The one thing I wanted to say about painting this is that the back is not painted. I'm not worried about painting the back because it's going to go against a wall. But I did go and look for something appropriate to use as knobs, and I found these plastic beads. Let's see if it'll focus on these. Of course not. We don't want to focus. Come on. Okay. It's got a pretty big hole in it. Okay, it's just not going to do that for me today. It's decided that this over here, if I put it over here, what is it about this that it likes so much? Okay, we can do that. There. This bead has a pretty big hole in it because it came off of a sandwich or food toothpick. Not toothpick, but pick. Food pick. There. So it's got a pretty good, big hole in it. And I got some copper 14 gauge wire and bent and cut it to make a fair faucet. Not Farrah. Fair. Wow. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to check with these beads was whether or not they sat flat, because that will make them easier to glue in place, and none of them did. So I took them and sanded them because they're plastic. It was just really easy to give them a good sand so they'd sit flat. To cover the holes in the hot and cold knobs, I had some, these are jewel gems out of a pin. Actually, I salvaged them out of a pin that had one of those little containers of gems in it to make it a sparkly, fun pin where the gems inside the pin moved. Anyway, when it ran out of ink, I took it apart and kept the little acrylic gems out of it. And I took and glued them over the hole, and they kind of have they're pink, but they kind of have a coppery pink tone, so they'll go with the faucet, and that will give us what we need to have to glue in place on the back of this. Now that I've scooted it off screen, to glue back here in the wide spot before we glue this in, to become the water source on our sink. And I do plan on adding a light blue paint to the cabinet part. I may streak it on there, or it depends on how much of this paint is actually good and how much of it is just dried on the inside. If I can only find a little bit of paint in there that's usable, then I'll just kind of streak it on the side to bring some blue into this white. But I'm currently waiting on the paint to dry to move forward, because I don't want to glue anything in place until the paint is dried. And it looks like I'm going to need another coat of white on top, because I'm going to keep the counter up here white, and then just the blue on there. But I wanted to share before I said that's it for this week, because it's probably going to take me a couple days for this paint to dry. And I'll just show it to you finished next week, now that you know that I'm going to epoxy the bowl in place in the hole and use beads for the handles. And by the way, this copper wire is 14 gauge wire for the faucet and stuff. I finally got round to gluing on some gems, some flat back gems, to look like facial piercings on this doll. I call her Reggie. I believe she's Claire from Outlander. And this is a regular removable earring, but I put some flat-backed pearls and another gem on there. These are nail art gems, so they're really tiny. and they do pretty good for this this idea of alternative piercings on the doll. And just wanted to share that with you, that just glued them in place. I actually use Jewel-It, which is supposed to be a glue for putting these gems on fabric, but I think it works okay on the vinyl that this doll is made out of. I guess I'll see over time whether or not it lasts, and whether I probably could remove it with alcohol, with a strong alcohol especially, but I don't know that because I haven't tried yet. So if you decide to do it, know that it could be permanent, could mar the doll's face permanently. You might want to start with a PVA glue like Elmer's or something first, just to try it out, or do like I did and put a little bit of paint, and know that the paint might stain. All the little mod risks you take when you're altering your dolls. So I hope you have a delightful day and a wonderful week, and that you have enjoyed this little foray into building the cabinet and getting an update. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.